Hello, everyone. Keith Casebolt back with you. Welcome into Simply Life. This is my friend Gary C. Johnson. So good to see you.
It is so wonderful to be here. We have just come off of Easter Sunday.
Very important weekend. Very
which
important.
Caused me to break my diet, I might add.
And thank you, my friend, for giving me a sense of a Passover. You looked at me and said, whatever you lost last week, you've gained it back on Easter Sunday, but it's okay.
It's okay.
So I feel good about that.
And today, since we just come off of Easter, I think we need to talk a little bit about the Ten Commandments.
I'm glad you bring that up because years ago, years and years ago, you said, Keith, I've found the secret that tops all self-help books, and I think you told me your wife Anita pointed it out to you.
Selling Psalms.
That if you just go to Psalms and if you'll just go to the Ten Commandments, you can fix everything. And I'm glad you're gonna pull that out.
So let's talk about the Ten Commandments, shall we? Because most folks, I'll bet you that's listening, you probably off the top of your head can't list them. And those of you that can, whippee! I'm proud of you.
Well, most of us know the ones that's easy for us to keep, you know?
Don't steal.
Yeah, well, hopefully that, or don't kill, yeah.
And number one, you shall have no other gods before me. That's fairly simple, right?
Fairly simple, straight to the point.
Number two, you shall make no idols. And I think what it means there, it's not talking just about idols of
the graven
objects,
images, yeah.
The graven image. I think it's talking about people as well.
Gary, can it also be talking about even money? Because people have misinterpreted that the Bible said money is the root of all evil. That's not true. What it said was the love of money.
Right.
So in a sense, when you're talking about idols, if you're worshiping something, whether it's money or whatever, that could fall into that category.
Or people.
Or people.
Or you put them on a pedestal.
Objects, yeah, people or anything.
Yeah. Number three, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Okay? Those of you that may have done it recently, don't do it anymore. Okay?
Pretty smart when you're talking about the great creator, the person that hung the stars and the moons that you might not want to disrespect.
You might not want to go around bad-mouthing it.
You used to talk about, you'd tell people, listen, if you're working for a guy and he's putting his name on your check, you might not want to disrespect him. I mean, that's a pretty neat thing, and this is even bigger than that.
Okay. Number four, keep the Sabbath day holy.
Back to the respect and the thanks and being humble for the fact that you're here.
Number five, honor your father and your mother. And really and truly, if you get right down to it, that may be the most important one.
Well, it is actually the first commandment given with a promise. And honor thy father and thy mother, and things will go well with you the rest of your life. So if all of our friends are looking for the key to success, it's pretty simple. Just be good to your mommy and daddy.
That's right.
Show them respect.
For the people that will do anything for you.
Who brought you into the world.
Who have unconditional love.
If you treat them well and you treat them with respect, the promise is things are going to be pretty good with you. Now that one is one that we all should be keeping. And you know,
thou shalt not kill is number 6.
Very important.
Well, we were raised that way.
Yeah.
You don't go around, human life is invaluable. It's sacred. You don't kill people.
You sit here and you when you're here and you do your program and you talk about the unique creation of a human being and how there's no other fingerprint, and then for you to take that creation off this planet, that's a pretty big measure.
Number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Can you imagine the problems that's caused, the homes that's broke up, the children's lives it's destroyed? And the good Lord years and years and years and years ago said, don't do it.
And the problems, the trouble, the money,
Yeah.
just keep on going, right?
Number 8, thou shalt not steal. Simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't steal. If you have something, earn it yourself.
You know, I had an old friend one time that told me most thefts do not occur because somebody just decides to steal something big. It starts out that they take small things, paper clips. Then the next day they take ink pens. And then the next day they're taking pads of paper. And before you know it, they're taking a computer. And then it leads up to money. But he was pointing out that there's this ownership, or it starts in when, like you just said, if it's not yours, don't put your hands on it.
Don't steal it.
Don't steal it. Pretty simple.
Number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Oh, boy.
In other words, don't go around lying on people.
Spreading rumors.
Yeah.
Criticizing.
Gossiping.
Condemning. Complaining.
Yeah.
Telling what you perceive to be the truth. You know, I had someone tell me about an individual that was just awful. They said, this person is just awful. I said, when did you meet them? They said, oh, I've never met them.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you've never met them? Nope, never talked to them.
But they knew they were awful, right?
But they knew they were awful. I mean, bad person. But yet they'd never met them, never had a conversation with them.
Ready for number 10?
Number 10.
And for those of you that may have just tuned in, have been going over the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
So, in our modern day and time, Gary, we call it trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. Is that kind of in reference to that we're looking at what someone else has and saying, boy, I've got to get that, or I want that, or I need that, as opposed to being happy with where we are and what we got?
Remember the 4 agreements.
Mm.
One of which is be content with what you can do your best, and don't worry about what the best someone else is doing.
Now, a lot of people are going to tune into this program and say, okay, simply life, simply the law. Here you are, you're a personal injury attorney. Why are you giving us a little lesson on the 10 Commandments in this day and age when we have cell phones and we have Apple Watches and we can fly drones and we've got the internet? How do those 10 Commandments apply to us today in our modern age when they were written over 2,000 years ago?
If everyone followed these 10 Commandments, the entire world would be nothing but peace and harmony. That's why I'm doing it.
Wow.
That simple.
So whatever it is if going on in your life, you could look to these 10 Commandments and say, how do these 10 Commandments affect my decision-making, my thought process, or what I'm doing?
Right. And how can I make sure that I'm trying to follow them?
And if these 10 are obeyed, then more than likely you're not going to be making a mistake.
And more than likely you'll be happy.
With yourself, with everybody around you.
And it'll definitely keep you out of trouble.
The big factor.
Yeah.
And all of that leads to unhappiness.
Well, it's all been out there for thousands of years. The wisdom of the past for us to follow. It has. It's there. But it seems like each and every one of us has to try to relearn it every single time by making mistakes.
Now, I wonder I wonder if we all go back right now and we go back to our mistakes in life and we try to match those up with the Ten Commandments. More than likely, it's because we broke one of them.
Yeah.
Whatever problem we've had in our life, it's because we probably broke one of those commandments.
And you may not even know at the time you're breaking it.
I can understand that.
And but I just thought, since we're out here, I was coming off of Easter,
Mm-hmm.
and we're doing this program, why not review the Ten Commandments?
I tell people all the time that listen to the radio program that ask me, they blatantly ask me, Gary is buying time on the radio to try to encourage people to be happy. Why? I said, because he sees people on a daily basis that's got plenty of reasons to be unhappy. But they are being happy even though they got reasons, and what he is trying to say to us out there, if we don't have those problems, we should be enjoying this life. We should be happy.
I guess one of the reasons that I'm doing it is really and truly, it feels good for me to think that I may have been able to say something that might have made it a little easier for someone else in this life. Now, is that selfish on my part? Probably.
But it's a good kind of selfish.
But it feels good to help somebody. It feels good to contribute. It feels good to be part of a community. It feels good to have friends. I'm happier when I'm doing this than when I'm not. It's that simple.
You know,
and maybe I'm doing it just for me. Who knows?
Well, you and I were doing the television program the other day, and we had a friend here locally that had called me up and had watched one of the TV programs in which you encouraged them to thank the wife for making dinner. You said, okay, so you said it at the restaurant, you said it to the waitress, but when you go home, do you ever tell your wife, hey, thanks for this dinner? And this friend reached out and said, I thanked my wife for the dinner. Please tell Gary I did it and tell him thank you because it was one of the best evenings we ever had. And that feels good to know that you said something and it brought some enjoyment to somebody.
The very people that do the most for us are the ones that we forget to thank. So, my friends.
Like the Creator?
Yep.
the
Every morning when you wake up, you need to look up and say, thank you, Lord, for another wonderful day. And I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to enjoy every second of it.
Isn't it?
And maybe you'll let me have another one tomorrow.
Isn't it enjoyable to grow respectful of being here?
You feel so much better about yourself and everything around you.
Hey.
When you look at people, you realize they're God's creation. You don't start judging them and making harsh things to say about them and things like that. You just look at them and say, God created them.
Yeah. I started doing the radio program with you 20 years ago, and you would come in and you'd go, well, looks like we made it another week. And I would think, what's the big deal about that? Now, 20 years later, oh, it's a big deal. I mean, when you come in and say, hey, we made it another week, I don't know who's happier, you or me, but I can tell you I'm happy to be here.
And let's do a little test tomorrow morning, my friends, if those of you that are listening. When you wake up, the first thing that's out of your mouth is you look up and you say, thank you, Lord, for another day. And I promise you I won't waste 1 minute of it.
Because that would be disrespectful, wouldn't
Right.
it?
And see how much better you feel.
Yeah.
See how much more conscious you are to make sure you don't waste any of that day by being miserable, by listening to people gossip, criticize, condemn, and complain. You don't waste it because you're going to be happy.
You know, we don't have the promise of tomorrow.
Nope.
So when we wake up and we got this day, if we knew this was our last day, can you imagine how thankful we would be? How we would be reaching out to
How
people?
we'd squeeze every second of it.
Oh, my goodness. We wouldn't waste 1 second. We would be telling all the people that meant something to us how important they were, what we thought, how we appreciated them. We would be looking at the sky and we would be looking at the trees and Our hearts would be full of love knowing that.
and at the wonder of it all.
Oh, yeah.
So, understanding, my friends, it may be the last day. Why not do that? Why not do it every day?
I think it would be a wonderful way to start the day. It'd be a wonderful way. Instead of getting up and going, I've got to do this, I've got to go here, I've got to be at this meeting, I've
Oh
got
no,
this
I'm
chore
running
to
late.
do.
Oh no, I'm running late. The first
I-
thing you say when you wake up, the very first thing, thank you, Lord, for another day.
Yeah.
And I promise I won't waste it.
Or I've got a tough day today. Oh, today's going to be a rough day.
Well, you can go do all of that if you want to. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
your attitude is the key to it. So why not start the attitude off being grateful for the fact you have the day?
Gary, did this all come from the lesson you were taught by the people that walk into your office, how humbled they are and how appreciative they are of the things that you're talking about?
Well, when you take away someone's health through someone else's carelessness because they broke a safety rule,
Mm-hmm.
there was a jury consultant one time said, you need to couch your case in terms of the person's harms and losses. Harms and losses, my foot, their life's been destroyed.
Yeah.
It's not a harm or a loss. It's devastation to this person.
A harm or a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may be a harm or loss to you because it's not you.
Yeah, right. But to the person that had their back broken, they're destroyed and they can't do what they did and they're in pain every day, they're devastated. It's not a harm or a loss.
But you have told me on several occasions that there were certain clients that you almost wanted to reach out to and say, listen, if you want to be bitter or, you want to curse everything or whatever, you got the right to because you really just got a bad deal. And these people are comforting you going, no, I'm so blessed and I'm so happy to be alive. And you could not believe the affection that they had.
They look at it and they say it could have been so much worse. I could have been killed. It could have hurt. Or better yet, if there's someone close to them in the car that didn't get the type of injury they did, they're grateful they were the ones that got it.
Glad I took the blow or I
Yeah.
took the force instead of my child or my loved one.
Right. It's amazing. It's amazing how over the years you see and learn so much about humanity. And then you get toward the end and you look back and you say, gosh, I wish I'd have known some of that before I started out. I wish I'd had some insight into how important people really are. That's the thing that, my friends, if I never impart anything else to you, it's how important people are. Because they were important enough to be born. And they had a reason to be born. Don't belittle anybody. And most of all, don't let anybody belittle you, ever.
And
Don't stand for it. Don't do it.
we may have a couple of listeners that's going, well, this is a nice little pep talk. But the truth is, until you've lost it, until these things have been taken from you, you don't realize the appreciation that you had for it. And you're trying to tell people up front, understand it and appreciate it now before you lose it.
I had a client several years ago that was injured and was a quadriplegic. And the greatest accomplishment for him was that he got to where he could move his arm just enough to where he could take a drink. Now think about that.
Mm-hmm.
All the things we take for granted. But there's people out there that can't even do that. And but for the grace of God, it could be any of us. So folks, remember, in the morning, the first thing you say is you say, thank you, Lord, for another day, and I promise you, I will not waste 1 minute of it.
I'm so glad that you pointed that out. I had watched a program on an NFL football player who too was paralyzed, quadriplegic, and the sportscaster asked him, what do you miss most? running the touchdowns, the crowd making the tackles, and he said, "No, being able to scratch my nose when it itches."
Yeah.
And I sat there and I cried like a baby because I was thinking of all the answers that this great football player would say. You know, the touchdowns, the glory, you know, the physical power. And it was the simplest thing, the thing that all of us will take for granted today, just being able to reach up and scratch your nose if there's an itch.
And we started the program talking about the Ten Commandments.
Still relevant.
And we are going to review those very quickly.
Okay.
Before the program's over, in case someone's just tuned in. I'm going to start with number 10. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Don't do it. 10 Commandments. Number 9. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Quit gossiping.
That was tough. That was tough when you said that.
Number 8, thou shalt not steal. We all know that. Number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Number 6, thou shalt not kill. Number 5, honor thy father and thy mother, that the days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Number 3, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Number 2, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is in earth beneath, so that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me, and skewing mercy upon thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Okay? In other words, don't go around trying to find some other God. You got one.
Yeah.
And he's going to be jealous if you do.
And you may not realize that you're doing that by worshiping an object, an item, money, a people, whatever. Yeah.
And number 2, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Number 1.
And the whole sense of this was in this high-tech world that we live in today, with computers, internet, cell phones, everything, you're simply telling people, if you just keep these 10 commandments, things will be well with you.
And I guess the thing I'm saying is that if the 10 commandments were followed across the world would be nothing but peace and harmony. In other words, the good Lord gave us a book to go by. He gave us a framework.
Yeah.
In other words, you buy a car, you go look at the book or something, you want to put it together. He gave it to us.
So here we got the United Nations and all this thing trying to figure out world peace, and you're saying it's pretty simple. Just keep the 10 commandments and everybody will be able to get along with each other.
But throughout history, it's not happened, and it probably won't. But, my friends, I just wanted to remind you of them. That's all.
Well, as you always say, friend, if one person does, then the whole program and everything was worth it, right?
And if just one person tomorrow morning wakes up and says, thank you, Lord, for another day, and I promise I'm not going to waste 1 minute of it, and then goes out and does that, the whole program is worthwhile.
Well, I'm pretty certain I know 2 people that will, right?
One of them sitting right here for sure.
And the other one is sitting across from you because I'm happy when that other week comes around and we get to meet again. And it's a privilege. I can attest to that.
The gift of life is a gift. It's not a right.
Absolutely.
And every day that we have is another day that's a gift to us. Enjoy it, my friends. Make the most of it. I think the good Lord meant for you to be happy. Don't let other people keep you from it.
Thank you, my friend. A very enjoyable visit and appropriate since we just came off of Easter weekend. We've got a couple of brand new television shows. If you could tune us in, we would greatly appreciate it. Tuesday nights on WYMT at 7 o'clock, Simply the Law. And Gary goes a little bit in depth about why we have lawsuits in the first place. And I think you're really going to be intrigued by the next couple of programs because he kind of points out how there's an attack on the attorney, then there's an attack on you, the injured person, and then ultimately they end up attacking the jury and the system. And Gary lays out all the details for you. So Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock on WYMT, Simply the Law. Late night replay in Central Kentucky on WKYT, your CBS affiliate. You can even catch us on Monday nights on the Living Faith Network, which is in Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina. So I think you'll enjoy the information. Also, Gary, you've got a brand new office now in Lexington at 2265 Enterprise Drive.
Executive Drive.
Executive Drive. Why did I say Enterprise? Executive Drive. I got that wrong, but it is a beautiful, compliments to you, by the way. Not only is it a beautiful building, but I got a chance to go into the boardroom. The boardroom is marvelous. I mean, congratulations. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you, Keith.
All right. On behalf, you can also get in touch with Gary at GaryCJohnson.com. And if by chance you need Gary, pound HURT.
On your cell phone.
On your cell phone. We're trying to make it easy to remember, so just pound HURT. My friend, probably one of the most important lessons that you've had for us in quite a while today, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. I did. Thank you so much for being here. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this very same time.